everybody, welcome back to Pagan's Witchy Corner. My name is Pagan, and I am joined by Kayla. Kayla, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm cooler this week. Last week we normally would put out an episode, but the entire southeast was being cooked. A little bit
Like a rotisserie chicken.
like a
It was
rotisserie
crispy
chicken.
fried.
Yeah, we were suffering through temps of like somewhere between 108 and 112 with the heat index. It was awful, so we didn't do anything that week. So here we are, a week late, but you get a new episode. So now we're going to be talking about a topic this week that I'm sure is going to make the internet not so happy, maybe a little itchy, a little uncomfortable. But sometimes being uncomfortable is a good thing and it makes you self-examine a little bit. We are going to be talking about the differences between light and dark and why it's a good idea to kind of unlearn those binaries. And this is no shade to anybody who sits in either camp, but we are going to talk about how it can be detrimental. So, there's your warning. If that makes you uncomfortable, you don't have to listen to the episode. I hope that you do, but anyway, let's get started. So, we all have heard love and light, light worker, death worker, dark and twisty. We've heard a lot of these phrases, and it's usually to describe someone's perspective of how they treat life. And sometimes those come with a lot of uncomfortable behaviors because it's bleeding out into a way that it's affecting other people. That's not always a great thing, and it's sometimes a misunderstanding of how it was taught. So we're going to kind of talk a little bit about both of those and why it's important to understand them, but also why it's important to be balanced. So we know that love and light is probably the biggest one everyone's heard of in some capacity. We all have heard that, if you're somebody who grew up in a church, that you have to be holy, you have to be good. If you're not good, basically God's not going to talk to you. Nobody's going to, be able to go to heaven unless you're good enough. And you have to live this life where you're striving for the good, but you're never looking at the dark. And if you experience anything that's negative, oh, well, you must have done something to make God mad, or you must have brought that energy upon yourself. You must have done something that was warranted. Now, I'm sure hearing that, you can understand why that's not so great, because that's really negative treatment towards other people, especially somebody who may be suffering through grief or anger or having emotions that are human
And treatment
experiences,
towards yourself.
and treatment towards yourself, because if you're not allowing other people to experience that, I guarantee you're probably not allowing yourself either, which is denying yourself a huge part of your own psyche and your own humanity. Human beings are complex beings. We have a lot going on with us all the time between, our emotions, our mental health, our physical health, and the world around us and how it affects us. So having that kind of singular binary mindset really limits how you perceive the world and what you're allowing to not necessarily affect you, I would say, but more along the lines of how you're able to process what's happening. So, that being said, flip-flopping to the other side, dark and twisty people. You probably have all heard me refer to myself as dark and twisty. I am not full dark and twisty. I just prefer the dark side of this life by comparison to the bright sunshiny world. The bright sunshiny world. I call myself a pharmaceutical vampire because I am. But I am not completely dark. And I also identify as a death worker because I do work with the dead. But a lot of times when people hear that, they're like, "Oh, you must work with the forces of evil."
No,
And
definitely
I
not.
laugh really hard every time that happens because it sounds absurd. But I understand for some people who don't understand how that works, or who have only been taught that if you embrace one side, the other side is inherently evil, or vice versa. And that's not true. Both
Not at all.
have their good properties and both have their bad properties, just like everything else that's balanced in the world. So, when we talk about being in the dark side of the spectrum, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's evil. It doesn't mean that we work with the forces of darkness. It still cracks me up every time I
Ooh.
hear that. It does not mean that we are in league with Satan.
I
No.
just imagine people with, like, jazz hands hanging over hanging over their forehead like,
Ooh.
"Ooh."
That's why we laugh, because it's silly. Um, but for those that, that we were saying who may not know any better, yeah, working with the dead could be scary. Working with entities or gods who may be on the, again, darker side of the spectrum. They work on both sides, but that's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about those in terms of deity work. That's a whole other lesson way down the road. Um, but when people hear that, they're like, "Oh, like, are you okay? Like, how do you like defend yourself? Like, shouldn't you be really worried about this?" Again, I try really hard not to laugh in people's faces when they do this. I do. I chuckle sometimes because I can't contain it. Um, but no, working with the dead or working with a god who may be on the darker side of the spectrum does not make you evil. It does not mean
Not at
that they
all.
are, you know, evil beings. And to go so far as to even talk about Luciferians, those who work with Lucifer, or even those who belong to the Church of Satan, those people are also not evil. They
No.
embrace tenets that are actually surprisingly really light
Very
worker
light.
side of
Yeah.
things. But they embrace a lot of autonomy, sovereignty, being in charge of who you are as a person. Don't be inherently evil. Don't be basically the number one rule that we always have when we talk about, people joining the Discord or doing, any sort of work with us is don't be an asshole.
Yeah.
And that's basically their main tenet
Don't be
is
a jerk.
don't be a jerk, don't be an asshole, don't be somebody who intentionally harms other people. Because what some people may not realize is working in the dark, so to speak, quotation marks over dark, can be just as healing as working in the light. And to work in the light can also be just as detrimental as sometimes working in the dark. It's both. Both can be healing, both can be dark. Neither one is exclusionary to the other side. Just
Both
because
can be
you
healing, both can be harming.
exactly, just like any sort of magic. Magic, you can do healing work that's just as painful as a hex that brings good peace to somebody. Yeah, it's true.
Imagine someone is Imagine someone is very sick to the point that they're not going to get better. Like, imagine they have an illness that's going to keep them sick. And imagine you do a working that wishes them health, but they still have that illness that's still going to keep them unwell. They're still going to have all the things that come along with that illness, but you do a working that wishes them health. That's
Hmm.
a hex.
That is a hex. Just like you can also do a health working for somebody who is in prison. You wish them
Mhm.
a long, healthy life in prison. That's a hex. Just as much as it is healing. You're bringing them healing. Yay, that's great. But you're also wishing that they spend a long time in jail doing, that kind of thing. And then going back to what Kayla was saying, somebody who knows that this illness is going to ultimately take their life and they're miserable
Miserable.
and they ask you to perform a working to basically bring them peace. And peace to them may be the end of their life. You don't bring death upon somebody, but bringing them peace, that may be what their peace looks like. And that's not a hex, that's a healing spell. Because bringing them that peace that may be what they are asking for isn't you playing God, because you never phrase it that way. You phrase, basically, you would phrase it in whatever peace they need to help them feel at rest, at peace, whatever it would be. And if their peace means crossing over, that's what it is. And that's maybe what they need. So that means it's a healing spell. And that's really oversimplifying it, just for the record. This is very
Yes. This is
simplistic.
very simplified,
It's still very
but
complex, but that's the oversimplified versions of that. So when we also say, "Oh, well, I don't take in negative energy, so don't bring your negativity around me," or
well,
anything like that.
I'm sorry, but everyone takes in negative energy.
Right.
I hate to break your bubble.
True. Everyone
I'm,
takes in
I'm gonna
negative energy.
I'm gonna break your bubble here. Everyone takes in negative and positive energy all the time, every day.
Yes. And I have had many people who are like, "Oh, the reason I got sick is because I was around so and so and they just have so much negativity and they're what's made me sick." And it's like, or you might have been around somebody who had a cold.
Yeah.
Science, germs, it's a whole thing. It doesn't necessarily always
There's a
boil
whole lot of
back
people
to
that study it.
right. It doesn't always boil back to the fact that it might be energy. Could it be? Maybe, but the likelihood is very slim. So, suppressing one thing or discounting something else, or allowing yourself to say, "Oh, well, I must have taken on energy and that's why I'm angry today." Or you could just be having a bad day. You could have stubbed your toe, tripped over the dog, spilt your coffee, all before you ever got to work. You don't know. That could be why you might
Or
be angry. Or maybe you're going
or
through something.
or you could be denying yourself the if you're if you're someone that is very, for lack of better terms, love and light, you could be denying yourself the expression of your darker sides.
Mhm.
You could be denying yourself the expression of the darker things within you, and they've boiled over.
Mhm.
And that's why you have this pent up anger that is boiled over and now it's spilled out. And now you've had a bad day.
Yep. And I'm sure everybody who's listening has probably heard this phrase of just be positive. It'll get better. Just be positive about whatever you're going through. Don't worry, it's fine. And they tell you that when you might be going through depression. You might be trying to figure out how you're going to pay your rent. You might be trying to figure out how you're going to afford food for that month, or how you're going to get healthcare when you know you're really sick. Being positive is not going to fix any of those problems.
No.
And to just say, just be positive, is just as detrimental as being like, well, you shouldn't have gotten yourself in that situation. Shit
Yes.
happens to everybody. No matter what situation you're in, telling somebody to just be positive, or on the other spectrum of this is your fault, is very toxic and detrimental and should never be approached that way. And if you don't know how to
No.
help
Not
somebody,
at
that's
all.
okay. You can say, "I would like to help you, but I don't know how." And maybe they'll tell you how you can help. Or maybe they just need somebody to sit with them in the dark. That doesn't mean that they're evil. It doesn't mean that you not being able to help them or they're not being positive enough or them wanting to step into the light is bad. There should be no pressure to shine, and there should be no pressure to basically go into the darkness either. For some people, they thrive in the darkness. And it's
Mhm.
not to say that they're negative people. It's just sometimes when folks end up being a little overly positive, they're like, "Whew, that's a lot. Thank you, though. I'm gonna go sit over here." There's nothing wrong with that. I am one of those people. I'm not a
Mhm.
super excitable kind of person. I can be, but for the most
No,
part,
me
I
neither.
am very much a, well, that's neat. I'm really happy that that makes you happy, but I'm gonna just go sit in the dark over here because that makes me happier. And there's nothing wrong with that. Some people are just built that way, and some people are built to be the lights in the room. Neither one is bad. Both are good. Now, when we're talking about in magical spaces, a lot of times darkness is framed as you must defeat or banish something, that it's often so terrible. But what we forget is also true darkness. It's fertile, it can be protective, it's wise, it's old, it can be the womb of the world, the cave, and the soil that is so deep that it holds all the roots to make things grow.
Mhm.
It teaches silence and stillness, depth, and not everybody who walks inside the shadows is out to get you.
No,
Sometimes
definitely not.
sometimes the things that walk in the shadows are your guardians. Sometimes they're your guides. Sometimes they're the ones that help your soul move through something that you've been suppressing or running from for a while. But society and often, more often than not, religion has taught us to be afraid of the dark, to be the one that is just, if you go into the dark, you must be trying to seek out something evil. And that's what society teaches us, that you should be positive, that you should be striving to be good all the time. And truthfully, striving to be good all the time is exhausting. to to be the
Yeah,
one that is like, I must be positive and I must do all of the things all the time. Man, that's
and that's
exhausting.
hard.
It is hard.
It's hard. It's a
And
very hard thing to do, to be constantly on.
yes.
That's what it feels like, you're constantly on. And it's hard to be constantly on this face of everything's good, everything's okay, when everything's not okay all the time.
Yeah. And sometimes, when you try to do that, it really you're you end up in a place where you're like, well, if I'm not positive, I'm not being happy, if I'm not showing happiness to the world, they will think something's wrong with me. And you may be going through something that you're just not ready to show. And that's okay too. But denying yourself the opportunity to sit with whatever is you're going through, even in your alone time, is actively harming yourself.
Mhm.
Just like if you would rather stay in the darkness instead of never seeking out any sort of light, you're also actively harming yourself. Because toxicity exists on both sides of the fence. Both
Yeah.
can have manipulation, both can have fear, and both can be harmful disguised as power. There's no way to say, oh, this is what this is, because by one, you're refusing pain and basically trying to manipulate yourself into saying, oh, I'm never in pain. That's never a problem for me or for somebody else. And saying, oh, well, this never happens to me, but it happens to you. So I must be better than you. Yes, I've had that
You're
happen to
refusing
me.
pain or fear or whatever the insert adjective here, you're refusing that part of yourself that is darkness
Yes.
for you. And whatever that is, you're refusing it and pushing it into the back. And when you do that, it's like you're refusing a part of yourself. You are refusing a part of yourself.
Yeah, you absolutely are. And it's, like I said, it happens on both sides of the fence. So one side is not to blame more than the other.
No,
Anything
not at all.
that's, if you think about nature, too much sunlight burns a plant. Too much darkness, it can't grow. If your darkness is rotten, basically you have root rot or something like that, nothing can grow. But if you are also never allowing everything on above in the light to get what it needs, then it also will die. And I'm not saying that having one or the other is death, by the way. This is just a plant analogy. I'm talking about how plants work. um, but because of that, you end up in this space where it needs both. It needs good sunlight and good soil. One is light, one is dark. You have to have a night cycle just as much as a day cycle. So it needs both. We know that from a human perspective, not enough sunlight makes us a little in need of some mental health stuff, and also not enough or too much sunlight, same thing. We need both just as much as anybody else. So, in terms of spiritual growth, like I was saying, you need both. One shows us how to release and how to understand the deeper, more primal parts of ourselves. And the other shows us how to, reclaim and see what happens within ourselves, how to bring in joy into our life, how to bring in all of those things on both sides. When it comes to witchcraft practices, if you are idling in one side or the other, or refusing to acknowledge both, that can be just as harmful to your practice because your practice is being run by fear. So, for many practitioners I have spoken to, they say, "Oh, I only work in the light. I only do this because I won't do any of that because that's where evil comes in. I don't want anything to basically get me." Darkness ends up being the boogeyman, basically. And that's very limiting. That only allows you
Mhm.
to go so far. Growth will
Yeah.
stop. And we've said this many times, and you're going to hear me say it many times after this. So if you have heard it on the podcast, thank you for listening. But also, witchcraft is spicy psychology. Witchcraft helps with the psychological aspects of being a human being. So to deny yourself part of your darker psyche is not helpful to the whole of your psyche. There's a reason it's called shadow work for, what it does, because it lives in the shadow. We put it in a dark little box so we never have to look at it again until we're ready to look at it. And that's where shadow work comes into play. That's your own darkness.
Yes.
And to ignore that will eventually be harmful.
And there's shadows that bite. If you let them stay there, there are shadows that bite.
Hmm.
They will fester in that dark.
And having shadows doesn't make you evil, doesn't make you
No.
broken. Everybody's got them. Everybody, anybody who says, "Oh, I've never experienced a trauma," they have. They just don't want to talk about it, and that's okay. They don't have to talk about it, but that's a shadow. And going back to kind of that whole, I only want positivity in my life, that's also a shadow.
Yes.
That means you're more afraid of anything that is not good and pure because you don't know what's going to be there, and it comes out as fear and unwillingness to face it. When we,
And that fear is kind of a fear that is a fear of the wrong thing.
yeah,
It's a fear that you've put on the darkness when really it should be a fear of manipulation.
yeah. So to live balanced, where we accept some light and we accept some dark, I will use myself as an example. I already said I'm a little dark and twisty, and that's fine. I like sitting in the dark. This dark makes me happy.
Samesies.
But I am not somebody who also ignores the light either. I like
No.
plants and girly things, and I enjoy doing all of the things that it's like, wow, that's whew, that's really girly, and it's like, I know, I like it, and it's okay. Sometimes it's a little dark side girly, but it's still girly. And then there's other times that I like to be goofy and silly and, embrace lots of love. If you are somebody who's been in my Discord long enough, you would know that I'm a weirdo. I am a very nice weirdo. I come across as somebody who may not be so nice when you first get to know me, but that's because I'm mostly getting to know you. But once you get to know me, I am a weirdo and I will show you all my weird sides and you can be like, "Wow, that did not come through on the podcast." No, it does not. This is very professional. But I'm a weirdo. I like weird things, like, our hyper focus, we said this before, that has been the World Cup lately. I think I've watched more soccer in the last 2.5 weeks than I've probably watched all year. And I have more recorded, which I will watch because I'm a weirdo and a nerd, and that's one of those things that, you know, I enjoy. I also enjoy a lot of other things, but that doesn't mean that I live in the light, but I also don't just live in the dark either. I just prefer to be in the dark because, that's what makes my little soul happy. Am I evil? Mm, well, no, but maybe depending on who you ask. Joking, joking, totally
Joking.
joking.
The sarcasm.
That was sarcasm. I am only evil to my tabletop players, whom I torture every 2 weeks,
Yes.
and they love it. So,
We keep coming back for it.
they do, and it's wonderful. So, that being said, you can have spiritual growth that embodies both. You can have spiritual growth that allows you to have silly moments with your work, but also allows you to do the deep work, the work that allows you to dig deep within yourself, to know yourself better, to work through things, to grow. And growth is uncomfortable.
It is uncomfortable.
It should be uncomfortable because as you learn something, that usually means that whatever you are learning takes time, effort, energy, maybe some unlearning to move forward into
Yes.
whatever you're learning.
And unlearning is powerful.
Yes, it is very powerful. I have done a lot of unlearning in my years, and I've also done a lot of just regular learning in my years. Um, this speaks to my autism and ADHD here, but I'm trying to learn 5 languages at once. Again, I'm a weirdo. So
She's a little cuckoo.
I am a little cuckoo, but in a good way. And because it brings me joy. I don't know. I found the funniest thing. I was thinking about this last night. I have found that my brain gets that whole scene from The Lion King where, the 3 hyenas are sitting there and it's like Mufasa and it's like, "Ooh." Yeah, my brain does that with Italian. It's like, "Do it again." And it's like, "Arrivederci," and it's like, "Ooh, do it again." I don't know why, it just does, but it makes my brain so happy. I don't know. Again, there's my weirdo-ness, so you guys have seen a little bit. So, that's my light side. My dark side is like, "Hello, I like to collect skulls and bones and I probably have more dark, weird crap in my house than most people do, but I also do that because I like to scare the normies, as I say. If you come to my house, like, and actually come in my house, and you don't like get freaked out by my decor, then you're probably a cool person. But if you get freaked out by my decor, I'm like, yeah, I don't think we're gonna get along very well, but thank you.
Thanks for coming over, though.
Yeah. So that's a little bit of just the mundane side. But in terms of, magical practices, it can be anything. It can be, healing work. I've done a lot of healing work. Heck, I'm a Reiki master, but I'm also a death worker. Balance. So
Balance, a little this, a little that.
little this, little that. And neither one is evil. Neither one is, you know, toxic as long as it's in balance. When it starts to become I guess the best way I've noticed that if I know one side is out of balance, that side will become judgmental.
Mm,
I get a little judgy and not intentionally, it just starts to happen. And then once I realize it, I'm like, ooh, back the fuck up. What are you doing? It's like, no, that's not okay. And that usually indicates that I probably have some shadow work I need to do because something is coming through in one fashion or another and I need to work through something. And that's
yeah,
usually how I know. Now, that's not to say that's going to be how it is for everybody. I don't know how everybody works. That's just me. Kayla might be different. You might be different. We don't know. That's how it works.
yeah.
And as you learn about
And that's
yourself,
where
you'll
it
know.
says that's where it's like, it's not about picking sides, it's about saying yes to every part of you and every part of your experience,
Hmm.
and feeling every part of the lessons that you have to learn in your life and in your path. That's where it comes down to, what do I have to learn to balance myself?
Right. There's a
Do I
really,
need a little bit or do I need a lot of bit of
right,
balance?
exactly.
I don't know, that's for you to decide. But balance is the point, not off kilter. Balance is the point.
Hmm. There's a really great
And
line.
knowing
Oh, go ahead. Sorry. I
oh,
thought
I'm
you were done.
sorry.
No, go ahead.
Knowing knowing both is the sacred part. Knowing both is the balance part. Knowing the positive and negative, the light and the dark, knowing both of those things is the sacred part. That's the sacred journey, is getting to know both parts of yourself and knowing
Yeah,
that both of them are you. Both of them are you and live within you. That's the sacred work.
that's the good
Now
work.
I'm done.
Okay. All I was gonna say is there's a really great line that we have in the lesson that I love so much, and it's to honor your tears as much as your laughter, and your rage as much as your grace. You need
Yes.
both. You need to honor that. And sometimes when you really think about it, it's like, I want to just go be silly and laugh about everything. And then there's other days that's like, I don't know why I want to cry, but I want to just go sit in a ball and cry. Because you
Yes.
probably need it. Something is out of balance and your body is trying to tell you to reset. And if you're ragey, Well, I mean, you could have had a bad day. Maybe it's hormones for us perimenopausal folks. Um, and sometimes you just need a moment to just be gentle with yourself.
Mhm.
So there's my 2 cents on unlearning binaries. Be in balance, and you don't have to completely practice one side or the other, but to don't
And
discount both sides.
I love the ending of this lesson. Well, not the true ending because there's a whole practice and everything else. But it says the greatest power is not in perfection, but in honest integration. Let the world try to force you into its boxes. You'll be too busy becoming a whole damn cosmos. And there's more to that sentence, but you'll have to come to the Discord and find out what the rest of it is. But let the world try to force you into its boxes.
Yeah,
You'll be too busy. You'll
it's
be too
okay.
busy.
And, we always tell people, like, embrace the weird, whether it's good weird, light weird, dark weird, whatever the weird is, embrace the weird. If the weird is what's keeping you forced into a box, be weird. I'm a weirdo. Be a weirdo with me. It's okay. A good weirdo. We
Yeah.
don't we don't do the bad weirdos. Be a good weirdo and embrace your weird, embrace all that makes you you without denying yourself who you really are. That's what it's all about. It's just being in balance.
Be
So,
the best you can be.
yes, be the best you that you can be. So that is our lesson for the week. And we always love that you guys come and sit and listen with us, that you come to learn with us, that you've been joining the Discord. So many of you joined the Discord and we love it. Thank you guys for all that have come in. You guys are amazing. We know that a lot of you have
Don't be
started.
afraid to talk in the Discord. We're
Yes.
here. We're here to talk. I know you guys have joined. I'm Queen of Crows in the Discord if you didn't know. And don't be afraid to talk. We are here to chit chat and do all of those things. So chat it up. I'm here
Yeah.
for it.
So I am most of the time. I'm just busy. So you'll see Kayla talking a lot more than me. And that's not because I don't care. I read every message that goes through. It just sometimes I get busy and I'm caught up in my own stuff, but that's because I've got, my hands in like 37 projects and 5 languages because I'm a weirdo. Um and so yeah, I get busy and I do chat. I had a wonderful conversation with somebody in Discord this morning about plant babies and about
Yes,
plants going
baby.
nuts, and it was a great conversation. So come in, talk about plants, talk about your dogs, talk about your gaming stuff, if you're watching the World Cup, tell us who you're rooting for. That would be great too. But yeah, come and have a good time with us. We do have some really cool events coming up that you guys should be aware of. So let me go through that for housekeeping reasons. Um,
Yeah.
so literally the day that this episode comes out, which is going to be the 8th of July, we will have our Weird Wednesday. We're doing a special deity night education. This is going to be a night where we're going to actually talk about how to communicate with deity through channeling, how to ask appropriate questions, what to do if you've never spoken to that deity, how to be respectful, how not to be respectful, and so on. We also will have a special deity guest that night who is there to help illustrate what we are trying to teach. That is not our normal Weird Wednesday night for usually the second Wednesday of the month. Usually we do what we call an education night, and that's where we ask questions, talk about each other's path, learn from each other. Because learning from each other also gives us new perspectives as well. So we love that. And then on Sunday, July the 12th, we have our brand new event that we're doing every Sunday, and it's called Chaos, Coffee, and Conversations. That you don't have to bring anything except a beverage if that's what you want. And we just go and hang out with each other and talk about our lives. We had a really great conversation this last one about the differences in Norse paganism, and it was really awesome. That was not intended, that was not scheduled. It just naturally went that way. It was really great. We had a really good time. And then Monday, July 13th, we have the Offering of Words ceremony for Hades. This is part of our Deity of the Month services, which include everything about Hades. We have actually written up a whole doc on how to kind of an intro to Hades and what you can learn about him and all the different things, and also a lot of resources to learn more about him if that's what you're interested in. And that will be a night where we basically go through a devotional ceremony to him with prayer, reflection, and a lot of connection with him. Then I'm going to go through the whole month. So that way you guys can add them to your calendars and come join
Put them
us.
on your calendars. Get a notebook. Get ready to pause.
Yeah. We have another Weird Wednesday, which is our channeling night, and we will be channeling Hades. So if you don't know what channeling is, it's also known as aspecting. Aspecting is another term for it, but it is where we do a psychic channel of the god Hades, and he will come in and you can ask him questions. And then,
Bring your questions. Be ready.
yes, be ready. And then Friday, July 17th, we have our game night, and we are going to basically do Cards Against Humanity. It's the digital version that's called Bad Cards, but it's the same thing. So we're going to do that. That will also be in Discord. And then July 23rd, we have our Echo of Embers, which is the guided spiritual message and devotional teaching that is from Hades himself that Kayla and I have gone through and prepared. And it is a night of reflection and sacred listening. And usually it's a really honoring kind of thing to sit through and listen through and learn from. So come check that out. And then finally, we have a special Weird Wednesday night where we're going to do Estes. So if you don't know what that is, it's the Estes method. Kayla is a fantastic Estes method practitioner. And so we're going to do that on Wednesday, July 29th. Most of our events, except for the ones on Sundays, will be, and those are every Sunday, by the way. Most of the events start at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, 7:30 p.m. or I'm sorry, 6:30 p.m. Central, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. And we will do all of those on those days. If you want to know more about the events, come join the Discord. They're all in the events section in Discord, and you can learn all about them there. And they will take place in Discord. So if you want to come anyway, you have to join the Discord. It's also where you can find the Tempering Path, which is part of this lesson. So if this is your first time listening to the show, these lessons are part of the Tempering Path that Kayla and I have written. It does not cost you anything to join except your own time and effort that you wish to put into it. If that's not something you're interested in, that's okay too. You can still come hang out in the Discord and we'd be happy to have you. I think that's all the housekeeping. Did I get everything?
You talked a lot, but you got it all in.
Whew, okay, cool. Come join Discord. It's great. We love you guys. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for being fans of the show. Share the show. Tell your mom, tell your dog, tell your brother, your sister, the cat down the street, the ravens, whatever. We'd
Tell the
love to
Raven.
tell the ravens. We'd love to have them listen too. So this has been awesome as always, and we will see you guys next time for another episode. Bye-bye, everyone.